At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 551. At the beginning of September in the 24th year of the Ice Age, a flying UFO officially took off from the Dragon City conference room on the central rooftop. Flying UFO, built by the Eastern Air Base, uses anti-gravity and superpowered flight as the main flying means, and also has an ultra-high frequency flight engine. The continuous aircraft is equipped with eagles, birds, fallen leaves and UFOs. A super UFO is about to take off now, and the 570 is about to inspect the global channel of the Global City channel. It can be said that this channel inspection is very important. There are two people like UFOs, Ying Ziyue and Deputy Chief Engineer Li Hao, but behind this rooftop are flying chariots one after another, all of which are high performance. The flying policy of the escort fleet is mainly for patrols. Keep Ying Ziyue safe. Now the cold wind is bleak. Ying Ziyue sees the display screen in the main driver, and then displays the detailed data point first. The current flight location is Longcheng Conference Room Main Station. The current UFO flight is 0.1744. The current air temperature during the flight is 32 degrees in Ningxia. The current wind speed is 17 meters per second. The current cars is 2.997. The current integrated flight is an ultra-safe flight mode. The location orbit is currently selected, and the UFO is about to take off. Please prepare for flight. At this moment, there were bursts of roars under the UFO's fuselage. The UFO took off directly, like a sharp sword, and flew directly into the sky like a catapult. At this moment Ying Ziyue once again saw the majestic Longcheng City passage. Dragon City mainly connects northern cities, that is, cities in Dongshan province point at the northern gate of Longcheng. A supergiant city passage appears like a tunnel. A super tunnel constructed artificially point the huge spread of the tunnel. The width alone reaches 20 kilometers, the length is close to 7,000 kilometers, and it spreads directly to the north. The most important city in Dongshan province is Dongshan City. This giant dragon-like city passage is like a giant dragon, stretching up and down into the sky, covering the ground with pieces of civilized machinery, super buildings, with UFO rides. The speed of the aircraft is getting faster and faster, and more pictures flicker in front of Ying Ziyue's eyes. Every scene is incredibly magical. For example, there is an increasingly developed picture that is a piece of urban passage, and the final connection point is still Dragon City Point, just like a super large circular structure. Longcheng, Dongshan City in the north, Guangcheng in the south, and the coastal city in the center, namely Xihai City, and Wancheng, Southwest City, etc., are densely packed. Like boiling spider webs, they all began to connect, and then a supergiant city was formed. Now this place can also be called a lofty super ancient capital. Then while flying over the city passages, Ying Ziyue was watching those city passages in shock. This is called the real engineering plan. He knew that one by one military tanks, military trucks, and 5.5 patrol tanks in the city passage were all going super, guarding and moving forward. At the moment of entering the dense galaxy, the global channel will be displayed to the greatest extent, and in the co-pilot engineer Li Hao's affectionate, elegant, and noble smile, he is more excited than others, because only he knows that once the world begins to enter the first-class civilization, then the urban passage will have a great effect, and that is the greatest manifestation of the times. Chapter 552. Start now. Humans will begin to see a piece of global channel. Here, the greatest display of this era is obtained, and the majestic and undulating architectural miracles can be seen with the naked eye. For thousands of years in human history, it has never been expected that you will see such a magical scene when you take a flying UFO to watch it. This is a real artifact, a picture of awe-inspiring miracles that is a piece of propeller tall buildings, exuding an ancient and sacred atmosphere. It also exudes science and technology, as well as the magical atmosphere of the future, which proves this great era. At the same time, there are also the northern super buildings, which also proves that this super era is extremely magical and shocking. Global Channel 02. Ying Ziyue can only see nearly a few hundred provinces across the country, and all channels encompass every city point. Once some fatal accident or change occurs, all humans can enter the middle channel to avoid transportation and transfer in just a few minutes or tens of minutes, because everyone knows that when the Earth walks out of the dense galaxy, there will be many small, but extremely terrifying disasters. Ying Ziyue is driving a UFO. The super driving and flying ability of the pilot suit is no longer a terrible driving difficulty. Riding on top of UFO can truly feel the most pleasant driving. Ying Ziyue said, "Lihao, you know, but what will happen when the Earth goes out of the first class civilization, out of this galaxy? You must know that this involves aeronautics and catastrophes, because when the Earth moves, the orbital magnetic field will change, and the surface of the Earth will also change drastically. It is impossible for such drastic changes to cope with confrontation perfectly." Lihao nodded, because he has worked hard for this sentence for nearly 10 years. First of all, it is a tidal storm. A superstorm can be understood as breaking up very small meteorites. It began to fall crazily in a soft form, and there was also that kind of subtle sandstorm, but this kind of sandstorm is not sand, but a certain kind of iron metal. Waste metal and toxic metal will madly sweep the world, so you must hide in a safe and fully defensive environment. Only in this environment can safe protection be carried out, and this is just the first step of a glacier storm. As for the second wave of attacks, it is called a kind of superstorm, which is endless acid rain. This is a disaster that is truly corrosive and engulfed, capable of super rain and super meteorite fall. Pointed means that this kind of super acid rain has already possessed a super corrosive degree. Once the corrosion is carried out in an extremely harsh environment, it will be extremely terrifying, and these two waves are just a small part of the disaster that the Earth made out of the galaxy, because when the orbit changes, the normal direction changes, that lasted for tens of thousands of years, then there are countless small ones like this one there, so the city will turn on the automatic defense state, for the sake of safety. Human beings will enter the global channel and continue to survive in safety. This is the real way of survival and resistance. Now Ying Ziyue looks at the glass of the cabin. He looks at that era, piece by piece, the connecting passages of global cities, piece by piece, majestically ups and downs, high-rise buildings, the most stalwart proof of human history. The most stalwart era got the best proof here, the greatest proof. This is the most invincible era at present, unprecedented. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553. Now, the first flying machine in the east, that is to say, the height of flying UFO is getting higher and higher. Flying UFOs around the world, in the current era, only Ying Ziyue can have this qualification point, because first of all, UFO is directly related to the second level civilization. It's impossible to design UFOs in the first class civilization, because it involves the top anti-gravity control and magnetic field. Flight. This is the second class civilization technology the East has studied for decades. This is hundreds of years. The glacier world, the East is at the end. Period. Only mastered this supreme technology point. Now Eastern Dragon City, Northern cities, Southern cities, and coastal cities have all been surveyed, and global channel observations have been carried out. This is a project that is truly implemented, and for all mankind. When you see it, you can see a piece of it. Beautiful and spectacular picture, that is, in those southern magical sky corridors of high-rise buildings, there are always newer global channels. The magical city is equipped with those global passages that look like super caves, so it seems that this project is even more magical, and even more inconsistent with the current civilized buildings of mankind. Point like those super buildings and stalwart buildings in the magical Period. They have the incomparable light of sacred magic. The UFO continued to move forward and began to arrive at Kawasaki Island, which is one of the important launch bases for engines. It has a small underground passage and is extremely important. Then came to the west. At present, a super isolation network has appeared in the western agricultural bases and industrial bases. This is the official isolation equipment and has supercapacity isolation. And now in the Eagle country and the Rose country, this technology has been completely formed point. That is the global channel, copied by the high-end engineering of the East, and then built. Every piece of agricultural greenhouses appeared, connected underground passages. There are two beautiful and epic pictures in Eagle country. The first one is the undulating industrial and agricultural greenhouses. Agricultural greenhouses, which are equipped with all the types of agricultural materials on the earth. This is a current supply of all kinds of species, and it also has global access and agricultural greenhouses that complement each other. It looks like a huge cave has appeared on the ground. This is a truly epic and magical picture. The Kawasaki country is a land of industry, and what the industrial base has is an industrial corridor. Those super factories and industrial corridors directly connected to the global channel, so the naked eye can see those magical scenes. That is a piece of giant factories, and then connected to the global channel. It looks mysterious and unpredictable. With the most mysterious atmosphere of the current era, UFO is still galloping. The speed on the flight panel has been increased to the third gear, that is 2000 km per hour, which is the real super limit speed, almost equivalent to the limit speed of a combat fighter, Ying Ziyue's. But the flying UFO anti-gravity and magnetic field flight ensure super stability. So there is no pressure on the flight. Ying Ziyue looked at the seas below, icebergs, new plants and wild animals, ancient whale holes and dinosaurs. Sharks have also appeared in the ocean, and pterosaurs have also appeared in the sky. This is truly a super magical primitive era. This is the super age. Chapter 554. The flying altitude is now over the eastern Pacific Ocean, which is over the Pacific Ocean base. Then Ying Ziyue looked at Engineer Lee Hao, and he smiled. Next, the global channel detection project has been completed perfectly. There will be no fatigue in this era, because everyone wants to develop towards the highest end civilization. And next, we must witness one at any time. A real miracle. So do you only know what miracle it is? As the Deputy Captain Lee Hao, he nodded quickly. He knew too well that it was the air corridor. The air corridor is not just connected to the high-rise buildings in the city, but a meteorological satellite at an altitude of 2000 meters from the Earth. Air corridor will be able to monitor, control, and predict all the harsh air on the Earth, as well as all kinds of earthquake disasters and other disasters. It can be said that the role of the air corridor is also great, which is related to the development of the current air, weather, and meteorology civilization. Report Captain Air Corridor. I'm responsible for 1/3 of the part. The air corridor is currently divided into 12 points, and 6 locations have been set up. The most important one is the sky above Berry Glacier. Should I go to Berry Glacier now? Ying Ziyue nodded, and then pressed the UFO superflight mode. At this moment, intelligent data appeared on the UFO main interface. Diddy. The current speed has been adjusted to the maximum flying speed, which is 2750 km per hour. The current flying location is 2000 meters above the Pacific Ocean, and the current wind speed is 17.6371 per second and the air pressure is 0.239. Currently the total flight location is 21.997 North Glacier latitude, and the flying altitude is 5000 meters. At present, it has entered the global satellite intelligent and artificial flight mode start. Dual mode safety assisted flight mode. Upcoming super flight. Please wait 3, 2, 1 boom. At this moment, the flying UFO started to take off, which was visible to the naked eye. Above the stalwart Pacific Ocean, the flight started to take off quickly. Boom 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 boom. The shock is resounding. The whole world is resounding. The stalwart is huge. Super flying machine. Perfect show. Ying Ziyue is also looking ahead, as if seeing one era after another. The pictures outside the cabin are the sea, and the seas are magnificent and majestic, as if they will never decay. There are also rolling mountains, magnificent and shocking, and the countless giant ships of the new era, sprayed with smoke, are advancing rapidly, and the most shocking and spectacular pictures in human history have been vividly displayed. The most stalwart, the newest era, Captain, if the Earth walks out of the dense galaxy, what will it look like? The co-pilot, Xihai, couldn't help but speak excitedly. Because this scene has been mentioned in every world in the past during the civilization period. It was a truly stalwart era boom. Everything has been prepared for millions of years, just for this moment. Once out of the dense galaxy, that beautiful picture is almost unbelievable and hard to guess, because it was too shocking, too stalwart. You will see it soon. Chapter 555. Diddy arrived at the destination soon. It is expected to land in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Landing assistance system starts to start. Looking at the endless glacier outside, Ying Ziyue couldn't help but sigh. Before the Ice Age, there was still a king sun here. Today, the waves of the Arctic Ocean have accumulated into this endless northern glacier. These glaciers also caused a lot of trouble to the establishment of the Northern Glacier Research Institute. But now, with the progress of the times, the development of science and technology. During the Ice Age, human beings were no longer in the state of being as weak as they were before. Rumble. Accompanied by a roar of engine, a huge steel behemoth appeared now on the glacier. I saw that its whole body was covered with frost, and the crawler under its feet was made of cold-resistant materials, and it would not be affected by the cold current at all. The most important thing is that on its head, there is a special drill bit. Any hard ice is vulnerable in front of that diamond. Then the drill bit opened like a flower petal, swallowing the broken ice into the body. Ying Ziyue looked at the steel behemoth in front of her, and the secretary on the side explained, "This is an ice bear detector developed by the Bureaucracy Institute. It can mine, explore, and open up roads in severe cold environments. The Arctic Research Institute is established under glaciers, and ordinary glaciers cannot meet the conditions for establishment. Faced with so many glaciers, unless the most skilled pilots also need to concentrate on landing in these glaciers. However, the UFO at Ying Ziyue's feet is a cross-age achievement. I saw it shuttled back and forth among the many glaciers, and landed exactly above the reserved location. Flying object detected in the sky, permission passed. Channel open with a crash. The platform opened, shattering the frost on the upper layer, and the apron rose from the ground. The UFO landed on the tarmac, and then descended into the ground. Ying Ziyue just got off the UFO, surrounded by a large group of scientific researchers in work clothes. However, their goal is not Ying Ziyue. For these researchers, the allure of UFO is far superior to everything. Oh my god. The legendary UFO was actually created. I thought it was all cheating children on TV. It's so beautiful. It's just a work of art. Xihai, the person in charge of the Arctic River, walked up and held Ying Ziyue's hand tightly. "Mr. Ying, we are all ready, just waiting for you." Zero fine flowers. Xihai is deeply aware that once the air corridor node he is responsible for is lifted into the sky, it must be a feat to change mankind. This heavy task kept him awake all night, until Ying Ziyue arrived. He could finally breathe a sigh of relief. "Thanks for your hard work. Get ready to complete the final arrangement." Yes, the entire Beni Glacier became full of enthusiasm because of Ying Ziyue's arrival. This is Ying Ziyue's influence. From the first snow country train to today's air corridor, Ying Ziyue must be present at every node. That changes the trajectory of human history. I don't know when it will start. Once Ying Ziyue appears, everyone thinks that this thing must be feasible, just because he is Ying Ziyue. A group of reports on progress. Preparation is complete. One test is complete. The second group reports progress. The surface temperature is -50 degrees, and the wind speed is 3 meters per second. 3 groups report progress. The node is ready and ready to launch at any time. Ready to launch. Personnel are ready to evacuate. Died. Chapter 556. Rumbled. The surface of the North Glacier shivered violently, and the huge launch platform opened a huge mouth in the abyss. An extremely stalwart era has begun. From now on, the super project has started. The cold wind was biting, and in the underground research institute, Ying Ziyue's face was sinking, and she slowly spit out 2 words. Launch. Boom. A firelight rose into the sky. The tail flame drew a thick stroke in the sky, and the 573 then disappeared in the cold wave point. At this moment, all the ice bear detectors in Belly Glacier stopped, and all the personnel looked at the dazzling flame in the sky point. That is the flame of human progress, the light of civilization in the ice age. Node access. The program starts running. Welcome to use the air corridor system. Start entering global weather information. A circle of electromagnetic waves in the sky spread to the world, like a boulder falling onto the surface of a lake. 5 minutes later, the screen of the Northern Glacier Research Institute lit up, and a brand new Earth projection appeared in front of everyone. We made it. With the cheers of Betty Sealan, the entire Belly Glacier Research Institute fell into a carnival. More than that, the entire Eastern powers cheered, which means that they will fully grasp the weather of the Ice Age and initially gain the power to play with nature. Oh my god. Dongfang has accomplished another feat. Is this the power of the Eastern power? At the same time, the leaders of Western countries went to the great Eastern countries one after another, and they must take the right to use the air corridors once they have mastered the global climate change. They will have a lot of energy to avoid it in the face of the unpredictable ice age, which will save a lot of resource consumption. At the B Glacier Research Institute, Ying Ziyue looked at the air corridor system displayed on the tablet in her hand, and she was slightly happy. With this system, they will master the occurrence of global climate change and disasters. In other words, from now on, every action that takes place on the Earth will be taken into their eyes. Foreseeing the occurrence of climate change and disasters in advance will avoid the loss of many resources. At this moment, Ying Ziyue frowned slightly and saw that the Earth's weather on the screen began to change, and the cold current was gathering. This means that a huge cold snap disaster is brewing. Once it happens, the Eastern power will be the first to bear the brunt. Notify all units immediately that a cold wave is approaching, and all departments are ready to meet the cold wave. Hearing this news, everyone was stunned for a while, but it was just a stunt, and they quickly began to work. Notify other areas, and start your own cold wave defense work. This is the role of the air corridor, to prevent and resist the disaster before it happens. All departments are aware that a cold current is approaching, and the disaster level is A level. Visually, according to the disaster level, it is divided into 5 levels: S, A, B, C, D, and A level disasters are likely to cause the destruction of human civilization if they are not handled properly. Western countries are shocked. The role of the air corridor is fully demonstrated at this moment. 5.5. Predicting Class A disasters in advance. Even if it is an A-level disaster, if you make adequate preparations foreseeable in advance, there is no chance of survival without survival. The cold wave is gathering, and is expected to hit Xihai City in a week. The outer temperature of this cold wave is -100 degrees, and the center temperature is -200 degrees below zero. There is a large amount of crushed ice, which has great destructive power. Chapter 557. The cold wave of A-level disasters is coming soon, and this news has spread to countries around the world since the great Eastern countries. The countries of the world are shocked. The Eastern powers have mastered the technology of disaster prediction. This means that they will always walk in front of nature and have enough time to deal with disasters. This is God's technology. We must win over it. Quickly, get ready. I'm going to the Great Eastern Country. The Great Eastern Country is really a magical country, and you must get the right to use the air corridor at all costs. At this time, Ying Ziyue made a decision that stunned everyone. He was going to Xihai City! 02. You must know that the city that the cold wave hits first is Xihai City. This is not a trivial matter. As the object of the first impact, Xihai City will face the huge cold wave pressure point in this environment. In case Ying Ziyue has any shortcomings, it will be a huge loss for the whole world. But Ying Ziyue's heart is determined. As long as anyone wants to stop him, he will be forced back by a glance. Go to Xihai City. Ying Ziyue wants to see it with her own eyes and see them on the front line of the natural disaster confrontation. The UFO made a loud roar and disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. Arrival at destination. Successful docking at the ground airport. Ready to land. Through the window, Ying Ziyue saw the city wall of Xihai City and saw one worker after another who were investigating and maintaining the city wall. This is the wall of life for all the people in Xihai City. Only the outer wall of the city wall uses a new type of insulation material, and the center uses graphene for impact protection. A large number of pulsating devices are also buried in the center of the city wall, and cold resistant catheters are distributed in the city wall like blood vessels. This is the real wall of life, sheltering one side with a body of steel. UFO successfully landed in Xihai City. Xihai City. Changbing Wenbo has been waiting at the airport. Mr. Ying, I have heard of the name for a long time, and you are welcome to visit Xihai City. At this time, Bing Wenbo was full of spirits and greeted Ying Ziyue very confidently. It seemed that he was very confident about his response to this cold wave disaster. Ying Ziyue looked at Bing Wenbo and then said, "Let me see your disaster prevention equipment." "No problem. As a peripheral city, Xihai City will be the first to bear the brunt of a cold wave disaster hitting the eastern powers. In terms of overall civilization and technology, Xihai City may not be ranked among the cities in the Greater East. However, if you talk about the ability to withstand cold waves, Xihai City definitely has the ability to be proud of." Xihai City Cold Wave Research Institute. Ying Ziyue walked into the research institute, and an extremely young researcher walked over. Introduction. This is Yang Mao, a second level researcher, and his master is a special level researcher, Zhao Wenlin. Ying Ziyue knew about it before coming. Special researcher Zhao Wenlin, the only researcher in the world who proposed the theory of bionics cold resistant materials, is researchers so bold that he has implanted the city wall with AI intelligent technology, has his own consciousness, just like a human body. He can repair wounds by himself, adjust the state by himself, and fight disasters by himself. Once it succeeds, it must be a magical level, which means that the city wall will have self-healing power and completely get rid of manual maintenance. It is important to know that the maintenance of the outer city wall requires workers to be exposed to harsh environments. Carelessness may cause casualties. Yes, this technology can apply for state support. Chapter 558. Hearing these words, Yang Mao was overjoyed. With the help of the country's support, the teacher's research will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Walking into the laboratory, I saw a laboratory undergoing a cold resistance test of the city wall. Ying Ziyue was a little curious, so she stopped watching. The temperature drops. Nature is moody. Consider the error value. 2 Beidou below 0. The stability of the material has not changed. Adjust down again, and adjust to the last recorded temperature. The temperature on the screen dropped sharply, and it was close to -3 Beidou for a few breaths. As a result, the temperature of the entire laboratory dropped a little. Ying Ziyue nodded slightly as she looked at the material that stood still in the severe cold. Moving forward, the temperature in the laboratory actually started to rise, and when I entered a research room, I saw that the researchers inside were all sweating profusely. In the center of the laboratory, in a glass cover, one large and one small red particles are suspended in the air, slowly rotating. That heat is emitted from this large and small red particle. Researchers on the side said that these are geothermal particles extracted from underground volcanoes and have extremely high stability. Geothermal particles. Ying Ziyue's eyes lit up and looked at Yang Mao, who was aside. Yang Mao quickly explained, this geothermal particle is divided into 2 particles, a mother and her child. It is a special resource transferred by my teacher from the Institute of Earth and Sea. This geothermal particle is a special particle extracted from the depths of a submarine volcano, and it is a primary product of the initial use of geothermal resources. Ying Ziyue's eyes lit up. The discovery of this geothermal particle is definitely worth the trip. This means that he can actually begin the development of geothermal resources, and the advancement of geothermal resource development is the development of stellar energy. The development of stellar energy is one of the important conditions for entering the second level civilization. Can I see Mr. Zhao Wenlin? From the proposal of the Wall of Life to the study of geothermal energy, Ying Ziyue can't wait to meet This bold researcher, Yang Mao, hesitated for a moment, then took Ying Ziyue to a laboratory point. When entering the laboratory, Ying Ziyue and others performed a series of inspections. Nearly 20 inspection measures are enough to prove the importance of this laboratory. Identity information detected. Enable permission. Attention. This area is a key research area. Please pay attention to words and deeds. Entering the laboratory, Ying Ziyue finally understood the importance of this laboratory point. This laboratory is divided into 5 areas. The central area records the operation of all equipment in Xihai City, the super-grade material warehouse. In Zone A, whether it is the new cold-resistant material that has just been tested, or the geothermal particles of special resources, are strictly guarded in Zone A. The Urban Defense Department of Zone B is responsible for observing the loss of the city wall of Xihai City, the temperature difference between inside and outside, and the sound of maintenance functions. Area C is for confidential archives. Area D is for logistics. In the central area, no one was slacking off. The researchers coming and going point, and a white-haired old man who is over 60s is the focus of everyone's. Li Ziyue, Elephant, Team Leader Gyro. This research needs your approval. Yes, I will give you 3 months. I want to see the results. Director Gyro. There are 2 more cans of geothermal particles from the Earthsea Research Institute. Put it in the warehouse. You give me a little time. There are 100 geothermal particles in the world. Dare to ruin it for me, I will sacrifice you to the heavens. It's hard to imagine that such a powerful old man actually handled all the important matters of the entire institute alone. Chapter 559. Master, Mr. Ying wants to see you. I brought him here. Facing the respected Zhao Wenlin, Yang Mao's tone was full of respect. Zhao Wenlin turned around. After seeing Ying Ziyue, he was taken aback for a moment, and then excitedly took Ying Ziyue's hand. Leader Ying, sorry, this laboratory can't be separated from me, so I can't come to meet. The scientific research task for the continuation of human civilization is the first. Researcher Gyro, I have seen your research before, which is of great help to human civilization, so I will delegate 3 special research places to you. Special research places. For all researchers, this term is like winning the lottery. The special research quota. The special quota established by the Central Research Institute has this quota point. Researchers can apply for resources first for their own research projects. The biggest reason why countless scientific research projects are difficult to implement is the tilt of resources. Zhao Wenlin's eyes widened. 3 special research places. Except for the wall of life and the geothermal particles, there was only one left, which was Ying Ziyue's reward for him. For researchers, finding research results that can benefit mankind is their greatest reward. Thank the country. I will not let everyone down, Zhao Wenlin said excitedly. Ying Ziyue smiled and said, don't get excited. The most urgent thing is how to welcome the cold wave. Relax. I, Zhao Wenlin, promise here. No matter what unexpected situation I encounter, I will perfectly deal with this cold wave disaster. As soon as the voice fell, a red message appeared on the big screen in the center. The air corridor system reminded that a severe earthquake occurred in the center of the cold wave, causing a large number of icebergs to collapse, and iceberg fragments were involved in the cold wave, and the disaster escalated. Disaster escalation. This is no longer an ordinary cold wave. The cold wave involving a large number of iceberg fragments is no longer a simple Class A disaster. Zhao Wenlin only frowned slightly, and then shouted in a very confident voice, please trust us, Team Leader Ying. I can come to Xihai City because of my greatest trust in you. Understood. Everyone has started to adjust, and I must survive this disaster. The A-level cold wave disaster is about to hit Xihai City, a large eastern country, and the subsequent earthquake erupts the cold wave disaster level again. This disaster has risen to an A+ disaster, codenamed Ice Storm. A few days later, an ice storm that had been brewing for a long time began to hit Xihai City. The ice storm is approaching Xihai City, and all the people going out will return as soon as possible. The icebreaker returns to the port, and the outgoing ship docks as soon as possible. People in Xihai City, please be aware that the cold wave of the A+ disaster code ice storm is approaching. Please don't panic at home. Trust us. Ying Ziyue sat in the central command room, holding a cup of hot drink, watching a series of data analysis, having experienced countless life and death moments. He has long been fearless of any disaster because he knows that Xihai City will definitely survive this disaster. Hoo hoo hoo. The gusty wind roared, and a grayish white stripe swept across the horizon. In the distance the sky was shrouded in dark clouds, and the snow and wind had already arrived before the ice storm point. A large amount of frost bloomed on the wall like a flower, as if to take root deeply in the wall point. Coming. The A+ cold wave ice storm is here. There was a muffled sound, and the whole Xihai City could hear this muffled sound. Report. A piece of crushed ice with a diameter of 10 meters hit the city wall, and there is no damage to the periphery of the city wall. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560. As the cold wave hit, Ying Ziyue asked her assistant to open the live broadcast and let those Western countries take a look at how they contend with nature. The live broadcast was opened, and public officials from Western countries flooded into the live broadcast room like a tide. Oh my god. What's the matter with this cold wave? Why are there so many iceberg fragments in it? My god, this is no ordinary cold wave. I don't know if our bunker can hold it. Can the Eastern Power really hold it up? This cold wave is too terrifying. Are you doubting the gods? The Great Eastern Kingdom is the kingdom of gods. I believe they can. Crackling, large and small iceberg fragments poured on the wall like a torrential rain. Point in the Xihai City control center. All the staff stared at the screen in front of them, calm, without the slightest panic on their faces. The city wall coordinates 26:45. The local temperature drops. Do you start the pulsation device? For energy supply, allow. Activate the pulsation device. Buzzing. The engine began to start under the walls of Xihai City. Point next. A very dreamy scene appeared. A conduit filled with heat, like the blood of a human body, transporting heat to all parts of the city wall. The city wall coordinates are 26:45. The temperature has returned to normal, and the average temperature of the city wall has returned to normal. Very good. Pay attention to the difference in temperature between inside and outside. There was a bang and another loud noise. As the ice storm progressed, it was not the tiny ice blocks that hit the city wall. Point now. The entire Xihai City is like a huge bell, beating one after another by huge iceberg fragments with a diameter of several meters. The radar shows that a huge iceberg with a diameter of more than 100 meters is approaching at a speed of 400 meters per second. As soon as this remark came out, the Western people in the live broadcast room exploded again. Once such a huge iceberg fragment hits the city wall, although it will not damage the city wall, it will also cause unpredictable losses. My god, the diameter is more than a few hundred meters, and with this speed, can they really resist it? It's so huge that our bunker can't resist it at all. It's too early to say these things. They are a great eastern country. The commander of the center calmly issued an order. Start Icebreaker 1. Icebreaker 1. A disaster prevention weapon developed by Xihai City. Zero fine flowers. It is worth mentioning that the Icebreaker number 1 is a disaster prevention weapon developed by Zhao Wenlin inspired by geothermal particles. I saw the staff operating for a while. The machinery on the city wall began to operate, and a needle-like instrument was revealed. This instrument is no more than 10 meters long, and its radius is not even more than 1 meter. In front of the huge iceberg fragments, it is just an inconspicuous little shrimp. Start positioning. Lock the location of the huge iceberg fragment. The positioning is complete. You can launch at any time. Ready to launch. I saw the body of Icebreaker 1 began to turn red, and in this cold wave, its body actually emitted a lot of steam. What a terrifying energy. In the cold wave of -3 Beidou, it can actually radiate its own heat unscrupulously. Emission. With a whistle, a small red laser shot out, and was submerged in a grey-white cold wave in the blink of an eye. Immediately afterwards, there was a loud bang, and a huge flame flower bloomed in the cold wave. Even the devastating cold wave cannot conceal its hot energy. Death. Chapter 561. Seeing the flower of fire in the cold wave gradually dissipate, the control center let out a burst of cheers. Ying Ziyue looked at the screen in front of her, with the corners of her mouth slightly raised. This is the Great Eastern Country. A powerful eastern country. In the past, they injured the anger of nature, and now, they finally sounded the horn of counterattack. This is the Antarctic Scientific Research Base. The ice storm is about to reach Antarctica. After Xihai City was hit, the 577 ice storm began to spread globally. Western countries are preparing to fight the disaster intensively, but they watch live broadcasts from time to time. The flower of fire blooming in Xihai City is deeply reflected in their minds. Are there any other areas on the other side that have their own cards? The answer is yes. There is definitely more than one method used by the Great Eastern Powers. Antarctic Scientific Research Station. After the ice storm crossed the ocean, qualitative changes have taken place. Under the blessing of the strong wind, a large number of tiny ice balls became as sharp as a blade. In this case, ordinary instruments cannot be dispatched at all. As long as they are exposed to the cold wave, they will be condensed by the pervasive freezing rain. This cold wave is also a test for the Antarctic Scientific Research Base. This is the Antarctic Scientific Research Base. It is estimated that an ice storm will arrive at the Antarctic Scientific Research Base in an hour. Everyone prepares and arranges a new type of protective cover so that nature can't let nature look down upon us. Received. The Aurora shield is ready to open. All units pay attention and prepare for the cold wave. Brush. Over the Antarctic Scientific Research Base, a colorful protective cover fell from the sky. Shrouded in the original protective cover, this colorful protective cover instantly attracted the attention of many Western people. What a beautiful light, like a rainbow. When will our bunker be so beautiful? People in Antarctica must be very romantic. Such a beautiful protective cover forms a unique landscape in the Antarctic and a beautiful landscape in the vast Arctic, but everyone couldn't help but worry about the effectiveness of this new type of protective cover, and it would not be just a vase that was inadequate. Soon, the cold wave struck, and the dense ice ballast was scraping the protective cover like crazy. The freezing rain fell on the protective cover, and layers of frost continued to bloom. Like a devil's flower. With a click, a shocking scene appeared, and the frost attached to the protective cover fell zero. The Aurora shield is like life. No frost can get close to it. My god, this protective shield is alive. Oh my god. What did I see? The magical technology of the Great Eastern Country shocked me for a year. The staff at the Antarctic Scientific Research Base smiled slightly, and the Aurora shield is their key research object. Today, its outstanding performance in the cold wave is the greatest affirmation for them. The Aurora protective cover uses nanotechnology to molecularize cold-resistant materials with special technology, and then recombine to form a whole. There is only one layer on the surface, which is actually a combination of 5 layers of materials. The middle is filled with air pressure and buffer substances, which can be changed in size at will. In the next step, the researchers at the Antarctic Scientific Research Base are also preparing to turn the Aurora Protector into a fortress that can move freely, witnessed by the Western countries. The science and technology of the Great Eastern countries are emerging in an endless stream, and the Aurora shield shows its unique beauty in Antarctica. Chapter 562. The flower of fire in Xihai City. The Aurora shield in Antarctica. Every move shocked the hearts of Western countries. This is the Great Eastern Country. In the face of such a powerful natural disaster, it is like the Xihai Shinsen in the myths and legends, standing still in the cold wave. However, it is too late to be surprised, because this terrifying cold wave is approaching Western countries. Western countries are beating the drums in their hearts. This cold wave has weakened a bit after passing through the Eastern powers, but its terrifying aura is still daunting. Don't be nervous, everyone. Our underground base won't be afraid of mere cold waves. Our bunker is enough to withstand the cold wave. We can survive natural disasters. Our technology is very strong, and we have a new type of secret weapon. Don't be afraid of 02. Let the Great Eastern nations see our power. The grey-white cold wave airflow is like a wild beast, slaying towards the Western countries. The first is the underground city on the border of Rose Country, where many people are shivering and hiding under the ground. The cold wave hits, and they're all on the ground. penetrates deeply into the depths of the earth. She long off wiped a cold sweat. And suddenly, accompanied by a crackling sound, the entire underground city fell into darkness. Not good. The iceberg fragments carried in the cold wave destroyed our power station on the ground. What? Where's the backup power supply? The low temperature makes the line loss serious, and some places are damaged by the cold wave and cannot be used. Fuck. Fix it for me. But going out now is to die. If we don't repair the electricity, we will all die. More than that, such tragic situations are still unfolding in Western countries one after another. The proud fortress of the Eagle Nation is vulnerable to the continuous offensive of huge icebergs and meteorites. Most areas of the Corn Country cannot withstand the cold wave, and power has been cut off. Even the Rose Country, most of the surrounding cities have gradually lost resistance. The Western countries finally understand that the Great Eastern countries have reached a level of civilization beyond their reach point. For a time, Western countries sent out requests one after another, asking the Great Eastern countries to save them. Of course, Ying Ziyue in Xihai City was not idle at this time, and the productivity of Western countries was an indispensable part of his plan. If it were destroyed in this cold wave, it would be a huge loss to the Earth's civilization. Connect with the Eastern Meteorological Institute and use the air corridor system to check the trend of the cold wave. The ice storm at this time is lingering in the western border area. Once it penetrates into the western hinterland, the arrangements Ying Ziyue made before will be in vain. Contact the Institute of Western Regions. Dispatch the nearest extremely cold positioning vehicle to locate the collocation of the ice storm, and then use weather missiles to destroy the center. The Western Regions Research Institute has received that it has dispatched 100 extremely cold positioning vehicles to ensure the completion of the task. Rumble. 100 black extremely cold positioning vehicles carrying high-strength signal transmitters rushed into the cold wave point. They are a group of noble retrogrades, using their bodies to fight against natural disasters. This is Arctic 1. We have gone deep into the ice storm. Received by the headquarters. Please turn on the signal receiver. The air corridor system is feeding back positioning information. Receive. In the grey-white cold wave, the black body of Jahan number 1 appeared extremely small point in the past. They could only groping in a grey cold wave point. Now that they have the air corridor system, they seem to have eyes, coming and going freely in the cold wave. Chapter 563. The air corridor starts to operate. Analyze weather data. Cold wave data recorded. Transfer complete. Global satellite operation relieving positioning information. Feedback completed. In the grey-white cold wave, the visibility was almost zero. In Chill 1, there were two young people, one driving a vehicle and the other in charge of receiving information point in this cold wave. Their actions depended on the radar screen in front of them. After receiving the news, we will be the cold wave center 1,000 meters ahead. The pilot glanced at the navigator next to him. Okay, you grasp it firmly. I want to accelerate. Turn on the speed mode. Pay attention to safety turn. On the artificial driving intelligent assistance system, buzzing, there was a roar of the engine in the cold wave. I saw the wheels of the extremely cold positioning car protruding out of the barbs, and a tail flame sprayed out from behind, and the whole body rushed out like a black sharp arrow point during the cold wave. 100 extremely cold positioning vehicles headed against the wind, and their positioning made the meteorological research base a more comprehensive view of the true appearance of the cold wave. The eye of this cold wave is hundreds of meters long, and researchers at the Meteorological Research Base have begun to speculate and calculate all aspects of the cold wave point. Finally, the first extremely cold positioning vehicle reached the eye of the wind, and the wheels of that extremely cold positioning vehicle were firmly hooked to the ground, and several hooks were shot around to fix the body. Report to the headquarters. The locator is installed. Request to return to the flight. With a thud, it was the sound of an iceberg fragment tens of meters in diameter hitting the positioning vehicle next to it. As long as the iceberg shards are offset by about 3 meters, the extremely cold positioning vehicle will immediately turn into a discus. Allowed to return. All extremely cold positioning vehicles are ready to evacuate. For a time, all the extremely cold positioning vehicles began to quickly evacuate from the cold wave after setting up their locators. Wait until all the extremely cold positioning vehicles return to the base. The Mount Everest base. and start to operate. Calculate today's weather influence deviation value. Preparing to launch hurricane missile. Calculate the moving distance of cold wave wind I. In the end, with a loud noise, one after another missiles trailed through the sky like a meteor, and the target was directed at the central eye of the ice storm. Everyone clenched their fists and watched the missile sink into the gray-white. Cold wave. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. There was a loud boom, accompanied by a deafening roar. A huge wave of air swept across the western border. A huge hurricane broke out in the eye of the cold wave, and two completely different air currents collided with each other. In the end, the horrible cold wave was defeated. The cold wave has stopped. No, the cold wave is disappearing. My god, the cold wave is wiped out. The grey-white cold wave finally stopped at the borders of western countries, and the wind speed in the center was gradually decreasing. An hour later, under the shocking gaze of the whole world, the cold wave melted into the wind and disappeared. Only those iceberg fragments left in place tell the world, leak irons, that it once existed. We made it, on January 10th. 24th year of the Ice Age, mankind defeated nature for the first time. The hurricane missile creates a large number of hurricanes at the eye of the wind, disrupting the airflow in the center of the cold wave, making the cold wave self-defeating. Since then, they no longer have the power to endure the ravages of natural disasters. This is a big step for mankind's progress. Since then, mankind will no longer fear natural disasters. They stand up. Chapter 564. The Great Eastern Country is really a magical country. The Great Eastern Country is a powerful country. From today, the Great Eastern Country is my belief. The defeat of the cold wave is a result that Western countries did not expect. They never expected that today's Great Eastern Country has stood tall on nature. Ying Ziyue of Xihai City sits in the research lounge of the institute, holding a cup of hot drink in her hand. Very comfortable. The secretary on the side, holding a hot drink in one hand and a tablet in the other, said to Ying Ziyue, now the internet is about to explode, and the leaders of Western countries are rushing to come over. What they want, try to satisfy them. Ying Ziyue looked into the distance. His gaze was no longer limited to the Earth at 580. His goal was the stars and the sea outside the Earth. After a few days in this way, Ying Ziyue came to the seabed research base. This is one of the few research bases established on the seabed in the Great Eastern countries. Ying Ziyue came to the seabed research base. AI Tao, the person in charge of the research base, hurried over and said excitedly, Group Leader Ying, welcome to the Jianalang Submarine Research Center. Fortunately, I heard that you found a relic on the bottom of the sea. That's right, and, based on these researches over time, we are 80% sure that this relic is even the legendary Atlantis. Atlantis, the name has been shrouded in mystery. Since the civilization era before the Ice Age. There have been endless discoveries about Atlantis, but the actual discoveries are very few. Take me to see the legendary Atlantis. Ying Ziyue can't wait to check it out. If he could. He could even build an underwater city on top of the ruins of Atlantis, riding on the A submarine. Ying Ziyue followed the explorers into the seabed. On a dark seabed, I saw the light of submarine A, slowly advancing like fireflies in the night. The dark deep sea. This is an unknown area, and all personnel are holding their breaths, guarding against the danger from the deep sea. In the end, they finally arrived at their destination. A circle of spotlights all over the ruins. The explorers placed the previously obtained special crystals around to drive away fish in order to obtain a good environment for exploration. Ying Ziyue's eyes lit up, looking at the ancient and dilapidated huge city, Atlantis, the civilization sinking into the sea. Give me a diving suit. I'm going to explore it myself. Putting on a special high-pressure diving suit, Ying Ziyue couldn't wait to swim towards the ruins of Atlantis. Walking back and forth among the ruins of Atlantis, Ying Ziyue became more and more excited. Even after so many years, the general framework of Atlantis is still intact. This means that they can use the framework of Atlantis for the construction of submarine cities. Ying Ziyue returned to the submarine and immediately issued an order to gather all the development resources of the submarine city point at this moment. A submarine city construction plan named Atlantis appeared in the Management Resource Dispatching Bureau point. Because it was Ying Ziyue's application, everyone didn't dare to delay, so they reported it immediately and sent orders one by one. Western countries have discovered that a large number of engineering ships of large eastern countries have begun to move, and a large number of resources have begun to be transported. All of this foreshadows that the great eastern countries will make big moves again. Chapter 565. This day is destined to be a shocking day, and western countries will see the real speed of great powers. 1 hour after the order was issued, heat missiles fell from the sky, forcibly smashing the thick ice on the sea surface. 2 hours after the order was issued, 200 icebreakers arrived at the designated location, and it took only 1 hour to clear a piece of sea. 5 hours after the order was issued, hundreds of icebreakers pulled a huge offshore platform and built it at the designated location. Report to the headquarters. The establishment of the number 1 offshore platform is completed. Received. The building materials engineering ship has set off and is expected to arrive at the designated sea area in half an hour. Engineering ships carrying building materials are galloping at sea, and they carry the hope of submarine cities. One after another, a large amount of building materials piled up on the offshore platform until the last building materials engineering ship unloaded the building materials. The number 1 offshore platform is docked. The connection is complete. Turn on the water barrier coating. With an order, a transparent coating was raised on the offshore platform, and under everyone's gaze, the offshore platform slowly sank to the bottom of the sea point and the Atlantis ruins on the bottom of the sea. Many workers watched the offshore platform slowly fall down. Working in the water may be a scenario that our workers have never thought of. With the assistance of various equipment, the construction of the submarine city Atlantis began. The first is the city wall. All the city walls are made of the most advanced waterproof materials. Even if they are immersed in seawater for hundreds of years, they will not change. After the city wall is built, a protective cover is built, and then the seawater in the protective cover is evacuated to build a feeding device. Soon, the submarine city Atlantis was shrouded in a water barrier. The initial foundation of the submarine city is thus completed, but now is not the time to relax. Today's Atlantis is the most vulnerable time. The city walls and shields only function as a barrier to water, and the defense force is almost 0. Once the seabed develops something unexpected, everything they do will be abandoned. Moreover, the current workers are exhausted, working in a high pressure and low temperature environment, but not everyone can bear it. As night falls, the temperature drops sharply, and subsea construction can only be stopped. That night, the icebreaker patrolled the sea to prevent the ice from recondensing. Fine flowers in the seabed. A large number of seabed mechas are patrolling the periphery to drive away curious marine creatures. The air corridor system also keeps an eye on the climate change around Atlantis and the movement of the seafloor plates. This submarine city is the first step that mankind has taken on the bottom of the sea, and it must not be lost. At dawn the next day, everyone had no time to rest and immediately began to build Atlantis. At this moment, someone reported that a special basement had been found. This discovery immediately attracted Ying Ziyue. If you know that any discovery of the secret room, it is very likely that the legacy of Atlantis is hidden. Ying Ziyue and the crowd came to the door of the basement. The inside was wet. It was just drained, and there was still seawater flowing out of the surrounding walls entering the basement. Ying Ziyue saw that the staff was carefully putting a blue crystal into a safe. Leader Ying, look at this note. A researcher came over with a sheepskin roll and his eyes were full of excitement. This is a well-preserved scientific note that I found in a sealed clay pot. Died. Chapter 566. This is definitely an important discovery. The civilization left by Atlantis. After Ying Ziyue checked the sheepskin scroll, her eyes lit up. What is recorded on the sheepskin scroll is actually a completely different technological civilization, and Atlantis technology is mostly dependent on the sea. It records a large number of marine technologies, using seawater as energy. No wonder Atlantis can develop to such a magical level, thanks to the inexhaustible material needed for their technological 580 civilization on this planet. Major discovery. This kind of technology definitely surpasses first-class civilization. Although it has not yet reached the level of second-class civilization, it far exceeds first-class civilization. This marine technology can be defined as a civilized technology. Does this kind of sheepskin rolls still exist? Yes. But some have been damaged, and few have been intact. This basement is likely to be the former Research Institute of Atlantis, which records many technologies of Atlantis civilization. Once these technologies are fully acquired by them, they will obtain immensely huge benefits. In the years before the Ice Age, the level of Atlantis civilization was so amazing that people even said that they had reached the level of third level civilization. Ying Ziyue didn't know whether it had reached the third level of civilization, but it could be seen from the technology recorded on the sheepskin scrolls they obtained. Atlantis civilization is definitely beyond the existence of human civilization. Research materials have been sent to land one after another, and the contents of these sheepskin scrolls have been established as first-class secrets, and only first-class researchers can contact them. The construction of the submarine city Atlantis is gradually progressing, and the important task of improving marine technology is also placed on the Jianling Institute. Ying Ziyue mobilized her own authority and brought in marine civilization researchers, ancient civilization researchers, energy researchers, basic scientists from all over the world. Everyone was selected by Ying Ziyue after strict screening. Before that, no one knew what they were going to meet. Team leader Ying summoned us. There must be some big plan. I've heard of the name of the leader of Ying for a long time. As long as it is called by the leader of Ying, it must be a big task to change the world. Several people joked with each other, but this is also the truth. Ying Ziyue led everyone out of the disaster. Almost every step he took affected the progress of human civilization. After the people exchanged their identities, they began to speculate about Ying Ziyue's purpose for summoning the people this time. At this moment, the light in the room suddenly dimmed, and a magnificent city appeared on the big screen in front of him. Ancient civilization scholars recognized at a glance. This is the legendary Atlantis, according to the news from the submarine city some time ago. Scholars of ancient civilizations have widened their eyes. Could it be that this call is related to the ancient civilization of Atlantis? When other people saw Atlantis, they immediately understood a little. Atlantis has always been a mysterious existence, and the civilization that exists in it is said to be far beyond the human civilization they know. At this moment, Ying Ziyue walked onto the stage from the small door on the side, stood on the stage, glanced at 5.5 and scanned the crowd under the stage. This emergency call, you may have guessed one or two. Yes, we found the ancient civilization, the ruins of Atlantis. Not only that, we also discovered the marine civilization technology left by Atlantis. As soon as this was said, everyone suddenly felt as if there was a thunder in their minds out of thin air. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567. Atlantis civilization really exists. The legend of Atlantis has been widely circulated, but the specific record of its civilization has always been an unsolved mystery. Ying Ziyue waved her hand, only to see a piece of information sent to the hands of the scholars. This is part of the basic ocean technology that they have deciphered. After reading these materials, the three views of the scholars have been completely subverted, but they quickly returned to normal. Most of them are elderly people who have experienced strong winds and waves. I saw a scholar stood up and said, "Leader Ying, what we need to do, we believe in your decision. It is good." Ying Ziyue looked at the scholars in the audience. These old people have made achievements in the marine field, and they have a great help to the development of marine civilization technology. Subsequently, Ying Ziyue took these elders to the underwater city of Atlantis through the submarine elevator. Today's submarine city has begun to take shape. The cold and compressive protective cover has been arranged, and the city wall has been reinforced. Now, There is a preliminary production environment here, and Ying Ziyue did not arrange emigration as the first step for the establishment of the city point. Instead, the first submarine research institute was established, called the Poseidon Research Institute. The scholars he brought today are the first batch of researchers in the institute, and their main job is to decipher and deduct marine civilization technology, of course, before there are concrete results. The affairs of this research institute must not be leaked out. The construction of the submarine city of Atlantis can release some, but if news of marine civilization technology leaks, it is inevitable that some criminals will covet these technologies walking. In the underwater city of Atlantis, the surrounding buildings are all cast frames, and a huge protective cover shrouds the sky point from time to time. Huge marine creatures can be seen flying over the city, and a large number of submarines are patrolling the surroundings day and night. Ying Ziyue exhaled a breath of cold air. Atlantis hasn't provided large-scale heating. Even though the temperature of the seafloor is higher than the surface of the earth, it is not very comfortable. The air corridor system warns that a hurricane is forming above the sea and is expected to reach the current coordinates in 8 hours. Ying Ziyue frowned slightly. The first test of the underwater city is here. The occurrence of hurricanes at sea is likely to cause changes in water currents in the sea point. Now that Atlantis has just been established, it is like a baby in a swaddle, unable to be alone. Notify the Central Meteorological Bureau to stop this hurricane anyway. This order was quickly transmitted to the Central Meteorological Bureau, which hurriedly retrieved weather data around Atlantis, analyzing the scale of the hurricane, analyzing the current changes around the coordinates. We are simulating a disaster preview, building a disaster resistant model soon. The Central Meteorological Bureau gave the answer that the scale of the hurricane cannot affect the changes in the seabed water flow point. However, this hurricane is likely to cause the collapse of the surrounding glaciers, which will then cause a chain effect to cause a tsunami and disrupt the flow of water under the sea. We have sent an icebreaker to carry out an ice-breaking operation. Please rest assured. After a series of orders were issued, Ying Ziyue watched the hurricane data in the air corridor continue to drop, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. Nowadays, the Great Eastern countries have been able to deal with disasters proficiently. This kind of responsibility is unmatched by Western countries. Chapter 568. Determine the coordinates of the iceberg and prepare to carry out the blasting. A live broadcast spread in Western countries, and the Great Eastern countries have taken action again. This time their goal is the giant iceberg in the hurricane. This is a bold action, although the actions to smash the iceberg are numerous, but this time, they are going to crush the giant iceberg in the hurricane. The hurricane raises wind and waves several meters high. If you are not careful, you may be swept into the bottom of the sea. To break the iceberg, the diameter of the iceberg fragments must be controlled to 1 meter. Otherwise the huge iceberg fragments will become a powerful weapon for the waves. So far, the long-range missiles of the Great Eastern powers can only be blasted once. The power is too high and huge, but it will smash other icebergs and cause unpredictable disasters. Therefore, in order to achieve the goal, in addition to the first blasting of the missile, a second blasting is necessary. This operation has extremely high variables. Although the risk factor is not as high as that of the ice storm at the time, it requires extremely delicate cooperation to complete it. My god, the Eastern powers are about to start their operations again. Too strong. They are showing off naked. Nature has already lost to the Great Eastern countries. Under the horrified eyes of everyone, 100 upgraded icebreakers set off from the coastal dock point. The upgraded icebreaker has not only upgraded nuclear power, it has 3 times the power of the original icebreaker, and the outer layer is also coated with new cold resistant materials. The entire hull has become larger, and the most important thing is that it is mounted on a small electromagnetic gun. That's right, it's the electromagnetic gun deployed on the spacecraft. Although the full version of the electromagnetic gun is still being tested, but the mini version of the electromagnetic gun has begun to take shape, and today is the time for it to show off its power. The submarine Dragon fleet consists of 100 super icebreaker fleets, and their captain is a navy named Xihai. He has made great contributions since the Ice Age, so he was directly transferred this time as the commander of the submarine Dragon fleet. Now Xihai is in the command center of the flagship icebreaker frowning, looking at the screen data in front of him. This was the first mission of their submarine dragon fleet. He never expected that the first mission was to hit nature directly. Xihai calmly issued one command after another. The black upgraded version of the icebreaker, like a black dragon, drove straight into the wind and waves. This picture was taken by satellite, and the Western countries in the live broadcast picture saw this new type of icebreaker, and they were stunned. This is a new type of icebreaker, my god. What black technology does the Great Eastern country have? Each time it is broadcast live, the Eastern powers can come up with a technological lever that we did not expect. Is the background of the Great Eastern country endless? Ying Ziyue is also paying attention to this action, and this ice-breaking action is also a test of the ability of the Eastern powers to take the initiative to resist disasters. If the ice storm action was a passive counterattack by the Eastern powers, then this ice-breaking operation is the first battle of the Eastern powers initiative. Air corridor system, LNUOs, access data is being updated in real time. Global satellite positioning, access data, real-time positioning. Qianlong channel satellite activation, enable channel signal. The hull data is normal. In this operation, Xihai received the support of most of the national defense system, which shows that the Great Eastern countries also attach great importance to this operation. A sharp look flashed in Xihai's eyes, and he looked at the wind and waves several meters high in the distance. Activate the first level power. Let us move forward through the waves. Chapter 569. The wind of the hurricane has strengthened. Will Commander Ni continue his mission? The Central Meteorological Bureau found that the wind of the hurricane has increased, which means that the waves at the center of the hurricane will be larger. Xihai looked calm and said in a deep voice, report to the headquarters. We have no problems and request to continue the mission. Understand. We will provide you with information and assistance in real time. Receive. Booming. A thick dark cloud in the sky shrouded the fleet's head point under Xihai's command. The distance between each icebreaker should not be less than 500 meters in the wind and rain in the distance. A huge iceberg is looming. Attention. The submarine dragon fleet. The air satellite has locked the target, and it is expected to launch an ice-breaking missile in 1 minute. Qianlong received. 2 minutes later. A fiery red tail inflammation crossed the sky with a loud bang, and the iceberg in the distance turned into nothingness. This loud noise immediately shook the hearts of everyone in the submarine dragon fleet. The real ice-breaking operation has begun. All fleets, turn on the secondary power system. Don't give Laozi province ammunition. Booming. The huge black ocean waves covered with blood basins, and the iceberg fragments among them were their sharpest fangs. Hundreds of meters in the huge waves. Xihai's surface was like sinking water. Aim at those huge ice flows and hit me. For a time, a series of sparks sounded one after another in the torrential rain. Xihai saw a giant iceberg fragment and immediately decided, activate the electromagnetic cannon. Almost without any preparation, the electromagnetic cannon aimed at the huge iceberg fragments, and a beam of thunder pierced the dark sea point with a bang. The giant iceberg fragment turned into countless hail and fell from the sky. That was an electromagnetic gun just now. My god. What a terrifying lethality. Xihai frowned, and a large number of giant ice floes had been crushed, but this was not over yet. The next thing was their real test. Collect the firepower. The entire fleet opened the 3-level power system. Buzzing. All the icebreakers made a huge engine roar. With a clatter, the huge waves flooded all the icebreakers, and only the endless sea was seen in the picture. The Great Eastern power has failed. The Great Eastern country actually failed. Sure enough, humans are still unable to fight against nature. As soon as the voice fell, I saw above the sea, a black icebreaker rushed out of the sea like a dragon, and the hot temperature evaporated the seawater on it. Everyone was shocked. One after another icebreakers rushed out of the sea and succeeded. The Great Eastern Power once again successfully fought against the disaster. In Atlantis, Ying Ziyue breathed a sigh of relief as she watched the live broadcast on the tablet in front of her. The secretary next to him said, Leader Ying, the city construction of Atlantis has begun to take shape. When will we make it public? Right now. Now. The secretary on the side widened her eyes. She didn't expect Ying Ziyue to be so straightforward. Ying Ziyue said faintly, the use of a large number of building materials engineering ships before has been big enough. This time the ice-breaking operation is even more grand. All of this is for the construction of submarine cities. Some smart people may have guessed it. After all, it doesn't make much sense to cover up such a huge project. It's time to let the world know about the existence of this epoch-making underwater city. Chapter 570. The ice-breaking operation was a great success, no matter the triple nuclear-powered icebreaker rushed out of the sea, or the electromagnetic cannon that penetrated the darkness. Every action deeply shakes everyone's hearts. This is a great eastern country, a mighty great eastern country. But soon, those western scholars came forward one after another point out that this ice-breaking operation is completely meaningless and a waste of resources. The famous oceanographer of Rose Country, Dr. Avery, said that even if there is no ice-breaking action point, that tsunami caused by the movement of the iceberg only hits the coastline of those no man's land and will not cause any loss to human civilization at all. This ice-breaking operation of the Eastern powers was a completely meaningless military exercise. However, immediately, another Western scholar, urban construction expert Professor Dolly said, regarding this operation, "I have a bold conjecture that the Eastern powers are secretly building submarine cities." As soon as these words came out, the world was shocked. The submarine city was a city construction that appeared in theory. Can the great Eastern countries really build it? As soon as this remark came out, the eyes of the Western countries immediately turned to the East. Is it possible? From the snow country train to the air corridor, the great Eastern countries have been on the front line of human civilization, and they can always create unexpected miracles. At this moment, the government issued a message that Ying Ziyue will start a live broadcast at 8 o'clock tonight to explain the current series of actions by the great Eastern power. In an instant, everyone was fried. Ying Ziyue is a very legendary figure. It can be said that he has set up a single-handed arrangement and established such a glorious human civilization today. There is nothing wrong with the official news. Everyone is looking forward to Ying Ziyue's live broadcast. What kind of shock will he bring to the world? As the time moved towards 8 o'clock in the evening, the number of people in the live broadcast room broke through 1 million early, and reporters and scholars from various countries in the West stared at the screen in front of them. Suddenly, the black screen in front of me was bright, but it was not Ying Ziyue's figure that caught my eye, but a huge city, my beast tooth. What's the matter? Where's the leader of Ying? Skinny Dahe. Look carefully. What is around this city? It's seawater. The West is called a beast. Is this a projection? Professionals, is this an underwater city? Too magical. An undersea city? Zero fine flowers. This is the existence in the legend, and now it is shown in front of everyone. At this moment, the picture before him turned. Ying Ziyue's figure appeared on the screen. Behind Ying Ziyue, wearing a black military uniform, is Atlantis under construction. You must have seen the previous pictures. Yes, the world's first submarine city, Atlantis, will be put into use today. After a short breath, the overwhelming barrage covered the live broadcast room like a tide. The West is called the beast, Atlantis. Ancient civilization reappears. Invincible in the East. No loss. Is a big country in the East, actually built an undersea city. Skinny West whined. Oh my goodness. If I can live in this submarine city, I will be content even if I die. Beaming Fuxu. If you think about the beauty, the establishment of the first submarine city is the first stronghold for mankind to explore the seabed. Residents should be strictly screened. That's right. Atlantis is the first stronghold of mankind on the bottom of the sea. The first ocean city. Ying Ziyue does not intend to put it into civilian use. He wants to build Atlantis into a mother city, where human civilization develops on the seabed. Death. Chapter 571. Maybe everyone has recently noticed that the building materials engineering ship on the sea and the ice-breaking operation are all for the establishment of the submarine city of Atlantis. As soon as this remark came out, everyone talked a lot, and some Western scholars blushed even more. When they first started, they were still vowing that the ice-breaking operation was a meaningless operation. Unexpectedly, the face slap came so quickly. This action June 20th fully served the establishment of the submarine city. Oriental powers never do meaningless actions. Every action and every order we take is to serve the country and the people. Ying Ziyue had a firm gaze and then said, this time the submarine city is put into use. We will only accept personnel in the infrastructure field and the marine field, and we will continue to build other submarine cities for civilian use. As soon as these words came out, the Great Eastern countries began to get excited again, and infrastructure engineering scholars and oceanographic professors from all over the country began to respond to the call of the country. In a room in Xihai City, I saw an elderly man in his 50s, who began to busy himself in his room. The old man was named Liu Xiangrong, and he was a national first-class professor of infrastructure engineering. Before he retired, his son opened the door and looked at his father's busyness. He couldn't help but frown. Dad, what are you doing? What else can you do? Go and apply for an undersea city engineer. A large number of professors of infrastructure engineering in the major eastern countries have been paid. You are in your 50s and you have high blood pressure. There is no need to continue to work. Boy, what do you know? Without state protection, we would have become an ice sculpture outside. I'm a first-class infrastructure engineer awarded by the state. I was born for the construction of the country, and even if I die, I will die at my job. Dad, don't persuade you. Old man, I'm willing to burn the last ray of heart for the country, and I'm not willing to waste the rest of my life in this hut. No, what I want to say is, I will send you. Count your acquaintances. This scene was staged in various parts of the Great Eastern country. Many retired engineers and professors, upon hearing the call of the country, are still ready to devote themselves to construction. This is the soul of a great country, and this is the spirit of craftsmanship. Ying Ziyue returned to the eastern headquarters and held a plenary meeting. The content of this meeting was Subsea Construction Zero. After this meeting, a plan called Plant of Poseidon was sent to countries around the world. Bark is a branch manager of the Rose Country Industrial Park. At this moment, he is standing in front of the factory, and the whole factory area makes a noisy roar. The East has started big action again. 10 steel factories in the park started up at the same time, working uninterrupted 24 hours a day, and a large amount of steel was transported out. This is the first time I have seen this scene since Barker took office. Barker looked at the steel produced on the account statement and couldn't help but sigh. The East is really a magical country. In his small park alone, there are thousands of tons of steel produced in one day. Steel transport vehicles shuffled in the wind and snow, and dozens of transport vehicles continued like a long black dragon on the ice sheet. After being transported to the port, the driver of the transport truck couldn't help but breathe a breath of air conditioning, and saw the steel piled up in the port as huge as a hill. The huge manipulator puts the steel on the transport ship on the shore, and the icebreaker patrols back and forth within 100 miles to ensure the safety of the route. Chapter 572. At this moment, the Great Eastern country has an unprecedented state of prosperity. A large number of engineers, scholars, and professors gather together, and everyone's goal is to become a member of the country's submarine city. For a time, a large number of people entered Xihai City, the city closest to the sea. Xihai City became the city for assessment. For this reason, the Changbing Wenbo of Xihai City has vacated a building as an assessment site. Although thinking about the enthusiasm of the people of Yan and Huang, Bing Wenbo still took a breath of air conditioning when he saw the dense crowds. To enter the submarine city, one must first pass an assessment, and this assessment was set up by Ying Ziyue himself. The test papers were sent to the hands of everyone. Their brows frowned slightly, and they began to think about the propositions in their hands. There is only one proposition: how to build a city on the seabed. Today's Atlantis can be successfully built, almost using most of today's scientific and technological power, and the resources spent can be said to be very huge. The significance of the construction of Atlantis is worthy of the resources paid, but the construction plans of other civilian submarine cities need to be revised twice. Not every city has the same strategic value as Atlantis. Resources cannot be wasted. They must come up with an optimal solution. The establishment of submarine cities should give priority to submarine pressure, followed by submarine temperature. Because it is under the sea, the lowest temperature is only 0 degrees compared to the absolute zero brought by the cold wave. The temperature of the seafloor can be regarded as warm. Soon thousands of test papers were collected, and the results were announced 3 days later. 500 engineers, scholars, and professors were selected to go to the underwater city of Atlantis. All of these selected people must sign a secret agreement. Once the agreement is signed, they will not be allowed to leave Atlantis for 1 year. Fresh blood was injected into the submarine city Atlantis. Ying Ziyue smiled as Atlantis began to reappear at the time point. At this time, Atlantis had already begun to take shape, and the city of Atlantis was built with the ring city. The towering high-rise buildings in the center of the city are where the city government is located. And underground on this floor is the secret research base where the Poseidon Research Institute is located. This area is called the Central Area and is the core area of the city's operation. The outer circle is the Marine Research Base, where the marine biologists work. The scientific and technological advancement of marine civilization depends on them, and near them is where the scholars, professors, and engineers live. Above each high-rise building, an infrared lighthouse is set up, which can show the way home for patrolling submarines in the dark sea. The entire sky above Atlantis is covered with a compressive protective cover, and the egg-shaped frame is used to construct the frame. With graphene as a support point, it can easily resist the attacks of giant marine creatures, and is equipped with mysterious crystals around the protective cover, which uses its special sound waves to drive away fish. Atlantis' defense was so impeccable. Ying Ziyue looked at the tablet in her hand. Suddenly the secretary next to him said, "When the ocean exploration team has sent a message, they have found a suitable ocean foundation, and they can start construction projects at any time. Record the location immediately, notify the offshore platform, and start moving towards the coordinate location." Chapter 573. Xihai, who is 35 years old this year, was recruited by the country to participate in the construction of the submarine city of Atlantis. He graduated with honors as the first place in Jinling Institute of Infrastructure and participated in many national projects. The most important thing is that his ideas are novel, but not beyond tradition. He has a firm stand in doing things, but he can also listen to the suggestions of others. Widely pointed is such a moderate person who was selected by Ying Ziyue as the chief engineer of the second submarine city. Xihai couldn't believe that he would be selected as an engineer for the construction of the second submarine city, and he immediately made up his mind to complete this task beautifully. While receiving the news, Xihai was brought to the central building by officials and met Ying Ziyue. When the leader, Xihai flushed with excitement. When he was a child, he had heard of Ying Ziyue's great name. Even the reason why I have persisted until now and become a national first level engineer is because of Ying Ziyue as a role model, and I have persisted until now. Ying Ziyue smiled slightly to let Xihai not get too excited, and then Xihai raised his head and said, "Winning the group, I want to take a closer look at the city construction of Atlantis so that I can do my homework for the next project." Upon hearing these words, Ying Ziyue nodded in satisfaction and said, "I'm looking for you. Also for this matter, come with me." Xihai nodded and then followed Ying Ziyue. The chief designer of Atlantis is Ying Ziyue. No one knows this underwater city better than him. On the top floor, Ying Ziyue and Xihai took the pipe elevator to the highest point of Atlantis, which is the maintenance platform at the top. The entire maintenance platform is built with a protective cover, and workers will check and repair the protective cover every day. Xihai raised his head and saw that the sea was suspended above his head by an invisible force, and the fish in the ocean wandered back and forth in the sea. This reminded him of the sight of himself and his mother going to the aquarium when he was a child. This underwater city is like a huge ocean aquarium. Suddenly, in the dark sea, a great white shark rushed towards the two of them, and Xihai paled with fright. With a muffled bang, I saw the great white shark slammed into the protective cover. A surprising scene happened. A spot of light appeared on the spot where the great white shark hit, which was like a stone falling into a lake. A circle of blue electronic signals spread to the surroundings and gradually disappeared. The great white shark was dizzy, and the surrounding loudspeakers emitted a special sound wave. The great white shark heard the sound wave and ran away without looking back. Xihai was undecided, looking at the great white shark going away. His heart lingered. The lower layer of this protective cover is equipped with a graphene frame. The dispersion mechanics is applied to spread the impact force of one point to all, so that the overall loss can be minimized. Wong is good. The special sound wave just now simulates the sound wave signal of mysterious crystal. This sound wave signal can drive away marine life. After that, every submarine city will be equipped with this special sound wave signal. UXIU nodded, and at this moment, a maintenance person came over, took out the instrument, and began to detect the place that was hit just now. UXIU followed Ying Ziyue on, and Ying Ziyue even took out a model of the protective cover for UXIU to study garden. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574. After a while, UXIU was relieved. After all, they were too close to the barrier, and the big white shark's blood basin seemed to be right in front of his eyes. Do these sea creatures often attack the shield? UXIU raised this question, and Ying Ziyue shook his head and said, the ocean has always been a field that we have never explored, especially in the depths of the sea, where the combat effectiveness of unknown creatures cannot be underestimated. The entire Atlantis protection system consists of 4 parts. The first is the arched tempered glass membrane inside the protective cover, which is the final protection after the protective cover is broken, and can withstand the seabed pressure, and the pressure of 5,000 tons. This is the last line of defense for Atlantis. Once broken, Atlantis will be destroyed. 627. The second line of defense is the protective cover of the dome of the sky in front of you. The effect UXIU just saw has already been seen, and it can completely withstand the attacks of most marine creatures. The third protection is the guardian of Atlantis, the fangs of the deep sea, and the guard of whale sharks. All members of the whale shark guard are young people of the new era. They have good cold resistance genes, and come and go freely in the 0-degree water. 90% of the marine life threats in Atlantis are solved by them, and their duty is to drive away marine life point. If any marine creatures go mad and break through the line regardless of their obstacles, they have the right to kill them. How is it possible? Now that with the advent of the Ice Age, some Cambrian creatures have also awakened. Today's marine creatures are even more fierce than before. Facing UXIU's confusion, Ying Ziyue smiled and said, the only difference between humans and beasts is that humans will use weapons to fight back. Each member of the whale shark guard is equipped with a nano-level cold-resistant protective suit and has an ice gun as a weapon for protection. Each ice gun in the water can produce a block of ice of 1 cubic meter in seconds. As the power of the ice gun increases, the volume of ice cubes will increase. The whale shark guards consist of a squad of 10 people, equipped with a Type B deep sea armed submarine, equipped with 4 torpedoes, enough to kill most of the marine life. Of course, the whale shark guards still focus on expelling, and armed forces are only auxiliary means after all. Ying Ziyue took UXIU to the training base of the whale shark guards through the elevator bridge connecting the buildings. When UXIU saw the training base, he was shocked. Because what he saw at first sight was actually a group of big men gathered around to discuss marine life. With the strong academic atmosphere, UXIU even thought that Ying Ziyue had led the wrong way. Facts have proved that these strong men who discuss marine academic issues are members of the whale shark guard. To be a member of the whale shark guard, the first requirement is to have a doctorate in oceanography. Without understanding the potential dangers in the ocean, how can we deal with these dangers? But, do you think these brawny men will only die studying? Then it was a big mistake. When I came to another training base, I saw 2 brawny men fighting with their bare hands. UXIU couldn't help sighing. This whale shark guard is really both civil and military, with such excellent personnel protecting Atlantis' safety. UXIU couldn't help but feel more at ease. Ying Ziyue took UXIU out of the training base of the whale shark guards. The times are developing, and mankind is also constantly improving. As an engineer in the new era, you must not be constrained by the thoughts of the past. Chapter 575. Then what is the last line of defense? UXIU was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Atlantis' defense system was so strict. The first 3 lines of defense have opened up UXIU's vision. What kind of surprises will the fourth line of defense bring to him? Ying Ziyue did not speak, but instead took Uxiu out of Atlantis in a submarine point 100 miles away from Atlantis. Uxiu saw another incredible scenery point. The submarine signal towers flashed with dazzling red lights, and special driving sound waves played uninterruptedly for 24 hours. These submarine signal towers are set up every few kilometers, watching the red light not far away form an arc and disappear into the dark water. Ying Ziyue said, this fourth line of defense is in these submarine signal towers. These submarine signal towers surround Atlantis, forming a special surround signal belt point just like satellites near the planets. The signals emitted by these submarine signal towers cover 100 miles around Atlantis. Drop to drop cross above them, a submarine made a strange noise and moved slowly along the sky above the signal tower. Upon seeing this, Uxiu couldn't help asking, winning the group. This is the special unit again. Ying Ziyue shook her head slightly and said, these submarines are all unmanned. Unmanned submarine! Exclamation mark. The Z-series submarine is a submarine recently developed by the Marine Research Base Point. It can be said that, because of the establishment of Atlantis, the Z-type unmanned submarine project was remanufactured. These unmanned submarines are extremely cost effective, and after reducing the cost of manual driving, the hull is manufactured for the purpose of performing the task. It contains the core chip for unmanned driving, which can receive extremely weak signals in the deep sea. The small nuclear power system used inside can still have strong maneuverability while ensuring its power. These unmanned submarines rely on the signals emitted by the signal tower to move around Atlantis like satellites. The Z-1 submarines put into use today only have the most basic detection functions, but these submarines are like the eyes of Atlantis. The wind and grass within 100 miles of Atlantis were transmitted into the central monitoring room. No matter how dark the sea water was, it was revealed under the detection of radar signals! 0 Find flowers. After reading the defense system of Atlantis, Uxiu's notebook was already filled with a lot of notes. Ying Ziyue said calmly, I'm going to build Atlantis into the first research center of underwater civilization. Naturally, the line of defense here is the highest treatment. 0 The defense lines of civil and military buildings are completely different. You have to consider it. Civil and military use are two different treatments. The first criterion of military use is to achieve the goal. A large amount of resource tilt is to ensure that military goals can be protected. For civil use, the living standards of the residents must be considered, and the construction of Atlantis is just a template point for a real civilian submarine city. Uxiu has to figure out a new type of construction plan by himself. Finally, I will take you to see the experimental greenhouse of Atlantis to develop the submarine environment. It is natural to cultivate plants and animals that adapt to the marine environment. At the outermost periphery of Atlantis is the established marine experimental greenhouse, planted with new marine vegetation. Death. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.